Chris Koldewey was born and raised right here in Port Washington, has been singing folk music and sea music in particular since his early teens. He comes from a family rich in maritime traditions and from an early age was exposed to a wide variety of folk music. Chris primarily performs U.S. and British traditional music, and the approach to many of those songs includes their historical and social perspectives and background. The songs may range from the sublime to the ridiculous, and everything in between, and are accompanied by a variety of acoustic instruments, which you'll be able to enjoy as part of today's program. Chris has had a long association with the Shantymen at Mystic Seaport Museum in Connecticut. Two of his all-time greatest experiences were to shanty up the anchor on board the bark Picton Castle during the 3-week stint during the summer of 2009, and to sail and shanty on board the Charles W. Morgan, the only wooden whaler left in the world, in the summer of 2014. So you're in for a real treat today. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Chris Koldewey.
I'll sing you a song, a good song of the sea. Way, Rio. I'll sing you a song if you'll sing it with me. And we're bound for the Rio Grande, and it's away, Rio, away, Rio. Sing farewell, me bonny young girls, we're bound for the Rio Grande. We'll man the good capstan and run her around away. Away, Rio. We'll haul up the anchor to this jolly sound, and we're bound for the Rio Grande. And it's away, Rio, away, Rio. Sing farewell, me bonny young girls, we're bound for the Rio Grande. It's goodbye to Sally, goodbye to Sue, away, Rio. Them that is listening, it's farewell to you, and we're bound for the Rio Grande, and it's away, Rio, away, Rio. Sing farewell, me bonny young girls, we're bound for the Rio Grande. We'll point her nose out over the bar, away, Rio. We'll head the bow for the Southern Star, and we're bound for the Rio Grande, and it's away, Rio, away, Rio. Sing farewell, me bonny young girls, we're bound for the Rio Grande, and it's away, Rio. Sing farewell, me bonny young girls, we're bound for the Rio. Vast heaving would be the command that would have stopped that tool. You learned this pretty much the way a crew would have learned it at sea. They head out, there are going to be lots of jobs to do. This is known as a shanty. Notice that there was a call and response. We'll talk about that why a little bit later. And as they would start a job on a merchant or whaling vessel during the 19th century, somebody might call out, "Is there a nightingale amongst you?" In which case, is there an older sailor who knows the work we're going to do and an appropriate shanty or work song to get that work done? And bravo, that was terrific. That, by the way, is Away Rio. The Rio Grande. Anybody? No, it is and it isn't, because we're not talking about the one in Mexico. For some reason, there weren't a lot of square riggers like that on the Rio Grande. This is actually at the southern tip of Brazil. So, and these are the vessels. This is what's known as a square rigger. Those squares sails, you'll notice, are not in fact square. The reason they're called a squaresail is because if this is the mast and this is the yard, when they're set at rest, it's making a right angle. It is square and is also then square to the keel, which is like the spine at the lowest part of that boat. So each mast has its own name, and all the sails are related to that. If you've ever been on a square rigger and you go at the pin rail, which is these holes in a rail that goes around the perimeter of the entire deck, every one of those would have a line in it, and the sailor was expected to know exactly what that was. Now, the job that we were doing is manning the capstan. So we're raising anchor. A capstan, if you look at the illustration on the left, and obviously all of those circular ports would be putting in those bars so that many of the men could walk around. It's like a wagon wheel that's on its side. And in that case, that's probably not an anchor line, but is probably lifting up something else rather heavy. They could lift up thousands and thousands of pounds worth of weight. And if you look at the very base of it, there are these little finger-like projections, and they're falling into a metal track to keep it from backing on itself. So if you've ever used a socket wrench, this is like a giant socket wrench. Okay, those things are called pawls. And these guys are on the right are probably doing exactly what we just did, which was raise up the anchor. Now, where would that be? That would be at, so that capstan is in the center illustration, right about there. And below that deck is this thing called a windlass. So right here is the anchor chain, and it's going through a hole in the deck. So we're pulling up that anchor. Depending on how deep the water is, depending on tides, all kinds, how much chain we have put out, that job can take 2 to 4 hours. The shanty is originally, we're going to start hearing them in the beginning of the 19th century. They were downsizing some of the merchant ships of the crews. They needed to get more work out of fewer men. And what would happen is off the coast of the American South, in the Caribbean, Irish, Anglo, and American sailors would hear in the songs of enslaved stevedores and longshoremen, and in some cases free, and they are singing a West African call and response. So back and forth. So the same way that you started singing back at me, and then eventually I'll let you take it over yourself, is exactly the process that is very much West African in tradition. So at the bottom illustration here, as we're turning that around, this is the side view of that windlass, and there is this chain going all the way down to the forward part of the ship, at the lowest part. So one of the other things is you can take, if you look at the illustration on the right, that windlass. Now, this is going to have, this would be another way, instead of a capstan to turn the windlass, we would have these. And this is very similar to those rail cars that you might have seen with one guy on either side and they're pumping like this, all right? So, as I walked out one summer's morn down by the Salthouse docks, heave away, my Johnnies, heave away. I met an immigrant Irish gal conversing with Tapscott and away, me bully boys, we're all bound to go. Good morning, Mr. Tapscott, good morning, me gal, says he. Heave away, me Johnnies, heave away. Have you got any packet ships all bound for America? And away, me bully boys, we're all bound to go. Oh yes, I've got a packet ship, I have got one or two. Heave away, me Johnnies, heave away. I've got the Ginny Walker and I've got the Kangaroo. And away, me bully boys, we're all bound to go. I've got the Ginny Walker and today she do set sail. Heave away, me Johnnies, heave away. With 55 immigrants and 1,000 bags of mail. And away, me bully boys, we're all bound to go. The day was fine when we set sail, but night had nearly come. Heave away, me Johnnies, heave away. And every immigrant never ceased to wish himself at home. And away, me bully boys, we're all bound to go. One night as we were sailing up the channel of St. James, heave away, me Johnnies, heave away. A dirty nor'west wind come up and blew us back again. And away, me bully boys, we're all bound to go. They hove her to and laid her down with reef main topsail set. Heave away, me Johnnies, heave away. It wasn't a joke, I'll tell you, 'cause our bunks and clothes was wet. And away, me bully boys, we're all bound to go. It cleared up fine by break of day, and we set sail once more. Heave away, me Johnnies, heave away. Every immigrant sure was glad when we reached America's shore. And away, me bully boys, we're all bound to go. Was at the Castle Gardens where they landed me ashore. Heave away, me Johnnies, heave away. If I can marry a Yankee gal, I'll go to sea no more. And away, me bully boys, we're all bound to go. And vast heaving once again. So thank you. So you may notice that occasionally you'll hear what in English we call hitches in my voice. Well, every immigrant, this is not because I'm going through puberty, trust me on this one. All right? But it is actually a device that was used at the shantying and was a way to inspire that extra bit of work that was being done. The Germans actually have a really amazing term for it. It's called Knuahan, which is the crow of the rooster. So, one of the other things that always happened was the ship was forever leaking. And you had manual pumps, right? And one of them could be similar to the movement here that we just did for that windlass. That would have been one, and then the other would have been the Downton pumps. All right? This is not the pump where you get to ring Carson for tea. I knew that a library crowd would get that one. So if you went in South Australia, I was born, heave away, South Australia round Cape Horn, we're bound away for sail. Heave away, me rolling pins to me, heave away, All the way you rolling pins, we're bound for South Australia. And it goes on like that. Another one would be out on the quarterdeck, walking about. There's a second mate so steady and so stout. What he is a thinking of, he doesn't know himself. We wish that he would hurry up and strike. Strike the bell, second mate, let us go below. Look to well to windward, you can see it's going to blow. Look at the glass, you can see that it is fell, and we wish that you would hurry up and strike. Strike the bell. Now the bell in that case is the bell that is changing sides. These are things called a watch. Because there is no Motel 6 in the middle of the North Atlantic, it is a 24/7 tending to the vessel, so that you've got one crew named for the starboard side, one crew named for the port side, and these are called watches. So there is a bell, and perhaps you've heard the term 8 bells. The reason that's coming along is you've got an hourglass set at 4-hour intervals, and you'll hear ding, first half hour. Ding, ding, full hour. Ding, 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 hour and a half. All the way up to ding, 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 8 bells. That means that the 4-hour watch is over. You can go down below, get some sleep, and the crew that is down below is coming up. Now, the thing about that is there's also, look at the glass, you can see that it is fell, maybe referring to the weather glasses. You may have seen these in some of the catalogs, especially up in Cape Cod, where there are these glasses. They look like a glass teapot filled with blue water. These are barometers. And if they're falling, it means there's a storm coming. Well, if the storm is coming, that means all hands on deck. You're heading up. You're going to start taking in sail. How do we do that? Well, this is what we're talking about. If you look at the ones in red, every time, actually everything that you see up here, all of these square soles, are, in order to set them and in order to retrieve them, men have to climb up. Can you see these little ladder-like things called shrouds? That's where you have to head up into the rigging. To start, the sails are gasketed onto the yards. That is this part that the sails are hanging off of. If you look to the left, taken off the line that is holding the sail onto the yard, and we're going to be pushing it off. And then with lines called sheets, it's going to bring those corners down. But you'll notice that that is very low. So a number of the sails were actually movable, the yards up and down the mast. So you would get a line attached to that to haul the yard up the mast, or a halyard. I'm waiting for the small boat sailors. How many people have a small boat? Okay, what do you take up the sail with? A halyard. You're not hauling a yard anymore, but the line stayed the same. You're hauling the yard. So what's going to happen there is now that halyard goes through a block and tackle system that they're all hauling to raise it up and stretch out that canvas. So, sorry, I'm just trying to get one of the other songs out of my head. It does that every now and again. Go away. So you might go, oh, Billy Riley, Mr. Billy Riley. This crew sings back, oh, Billy Riley, oh, try that. Oh, Billy Riley, oh, Billy Riley, Mr. Billy Riley. And you will sing back, oh, Billy Riley, oh, try it. Oh, Billy Riley, oh. That's great. And, you know, I love the fact that you're all obviously very well bred and extremely polite. I'd like you to get more into a maritime head. And if you're at all concerned about the quality of your singing, please sing that much louder because it adds that air of authenticity. All right? So, oh, Billy Riley, Mr. Billy Riley. Oh, Billy Riley. Oh, Billy Riley, Mr. Billy Riley. Oh, Billy Riley. Oh, Billy Riley, signed upon a droger. Oh, Billy Riley. Oh, Billy Riley, signed upon a droger. Oh, Billy Riley. Oh, Billy Riley, bound out for Antigua. Oh, Billy Riley. Oh, Billy Riley, bound out for Antigua. Oh, Billy Riley. Oh, Billy Riley, married captain's daughter. Oh, Billy Riley. Billy Riley, married captain's daughter. Oh, Billy Riley. Oh, Billy Riley, Mr. Billy Riley. Oh, Billy Riley. Oh, Billy Riley, Mr. Billy Riley. Oh, Billy Riley. Oh, Mrs. Riley didn't like sailors. Oh, Billy Riley. Mrs. Riley didn't like sailors. Oh, Billy Riley. High enough. Okay, now we were in the middle of that song, but I saw, or the captain saw, or the mate of the watch saw that that was high enough. It had, so that's the cryptic sailor language that would be prevalent, which means regardless of the fact that we are in the middle of this nice song and you're thinking to yourselves, I'd really like to find out what happened to Billy Riley. That tool gets put away and we are not singing it. This is one of the reasons that there were probably very few references from the 1830s, 1840s, 1850s, 1860s, even up to the 1870s and 80s about shantying. It was a tool, all right? At the time, nobody's going to be writing, well, I understand that this particular hammer, which weighs 3.5 pounds, swings out of his... These were not articles that folks were really interested in. Okay? So what happens is by the 1870s, 1880s, a lot of the jobs that the shanties were used for are starting to be replaced by mechanized engines and other types of tools, like there's a thing called bracing. And if I am the yard and this is the sail, when one pulls on the right side and releases on the left, which would be your left, my right, it will move the sail like this. This is bracing to starboard. Bracing to port. You reverse it. Okay? And that is done by hand when we were on the Morgan. There is no shanty, to my knowledge, that is going to be doing that. Because if you're on the brace for each sail on each specific mast that you have, they will call out, foretopsail braces starboard. And you call back, foretopsail braces starboard, sir, which means I know that I have to get to the braces that are attached to the topsail that is on the fore mast. Haul away starboard, ease on port. And we are going quite literally like that. And pulling it down as quickly as you can to brace over. When it's over far enough, you get the command, weigh enough, make off. And that's when, and then they'll tighten it up and follow the orders from there. What happened on the really, really large ones, if you ever go to South Street Seaport and you see the waiver tree, which is mammoth. Those were probably not braced over by hand. They were using a winch like this, in which case you'll notice that there's a similar device to the pumps that's circular. And you could have used a song like that, but this is happening so fast, probably not going to happen there either. You're just bracing over incredibly fast. So on the deck are some, if you look on the one on the left, the corners of the lowest sail, either the foresail, the mainsail, or the mizzensail, in order to keep those corners tight, they actually have to come down to the deck level, and that's what's happening there. Those are called tacks and sheets. Now, what's interesting about that is at this point, there is an enormous amount of pressure on this sail. So I might do something, and we're going to have a couple of, we're all quite literally bent over. Sorry, the cameras are going to hate me. You're down like this, low. I just went down very, very low. And so the shantyman would call out, "In Liverpool I was born, bring 'em down." Try that. Bring 'em down. Oh, that's not bad. Yeah, that's kind of timid, let's gut it up. In Liverpool I was born, and London is me home from home. Them Rotherhithe girls is mighty fine. They're never a day behind the times. It's round Cape Horn we all must go. Round Cape Stiff through the frost and snow. Up the coast to Vallepo. Northward to Callao. Them Callao girls I do adore. They takes it all and ask for more. And Liverpool, anyway, it goes on like that until probably one or two verses. Those are far more. And until you are sweated up enough, you go to everything else, sweat it up, and that is it. But that is called a short drag or single pull. Have you ever heard, "Oh, when I was a little boy, my mother often told me, we'll haul away, Joe." Now, you probably haven't heard it with that Joe. That's a single pull, short drag shanty. All right? So that pull is, "We'll haul away, Joe." And you tighten it up that way. So now at your next cocktail party, if somebody asks, "I've always wondered, haul away, Joe, what might that have been used for?" You're in. Okay. So when the weather hits, that is when you need to go aloft to take in those sails. Reason being, especially around in Bring 'em Down, you noticed I mentioned Cape Stiff through the frost and snow. The Cape of Storms, we're talking about, of course, Cape Horn. Because up till, this is the bottom part of South America, up until the Panama Canal, there was no way to get from the west coast by sea to the east coast of the United States or vice versa. Something that I would highly recommend if you're ever online and you Google Peking, that's the name of the vessel, it's a bark, rounding Cape Horn, Irving Johnson. You will actually see a square rigger going around Cape Horn. It's not pretty. But the reason you're taking in all those sails is because with high winds, incredible things like this, it is very likely that it will, at the very least, tear your sails to shreds or take down the masts. And that used to annoy the sailors, so they kept it to a minimum. what's happening, this is an up close with the photo on the right, is the way where we would get out onto the yards. And what you're doing is there's a tow rope. You look at their feet, and they're quite actually kicking back to press your torso into the yard itself, and then retrieving the sails that way so that you have both hands to work the ship. And you'll notice that there's all kinds of OSHA-approved safety gear. Oh, too many. I've ruined the surprise. So, by the way, when we did bring them down, that overlapping, very similarly to Billy Riley, that overlapping is absolutely ingrained in West African work song. And it's one of the examples of it, of the connections to that. So, cargo handling, this is where they would have heard a lot of these before. And you would be looking at something like, in the port of New Orleans, come smiling Lindy Low, sweetest gal I know, on the finest boat that ever float on the Ohio, the Mississippi or the Ohio. So if you look where the red is, you've got, these are modern barrels, but at the time, mid-19th century, they are going to be what we would call a barrel shape. Now, technically at the time, they also would have had barrel, hogshead, butt, firkin, each content had a different name so that you knew what you were talking about. And a barrel was 31.5 gallons. So not all casks were called barrels. Now, you will also notice that they are larger in the center than they are on either end. We've all got that image in our head, right? That is because all truly beautiful things on Earth are larger in the middle than they are on either end. But the other added benefit for that is that when they would be full, you're talking about anywhere from 500 to a couple of thousand pounds, depending on the size and depending on what's in it. But one man could operate it, because when you tip them over, that larger center makes only this much in contact with the ground. And they can spin completely on their axis and be rolled anywhere you need them to be, and then righted by shifting them back and forth, and they will right themselves up. Your physics dollars at work. So what you're seeing in that upper left photo is it would be eventually by hand. Later part of the 19th century, you're going to be using donkey engines to do this. And that's where, if you noticed, come smiling Lindy Low, on Louisiana shore, on the finest boat that ever float, on the Ohio, the Mississippi or the Ohio. High enough, take in, and they would move it over the hatch, lower it away, and then cook it up to the next, and you were good. Mid-1950s, this all changes. And the style that I'm describing here is called break bulk cargo handling. 1950s, a fellow named McLaren discovers that, wait a minute, if we take all of these boxes and we put them into another giant box and make that giant box able to be transported from a ship to a train to a truck bed, we don't need all those guys. And thus was born containerization. So if you see a truck on the highway that says OOCL or Hamburg Sud or Hapag-Lloyd or any of these, K-Line as a Japanese firm, all of those came over on a container ship. And I would venture to say that everybody seated here right now is wearing at least something that came over on a container. If you look down at the lower left, those are butts, which is the size of that particular one. So yeah, wait for it. They're a buttload. That's where we get the that's where we get the phrase, not kidding. And that is all whale oil. Those are all whalers over in New Bedford. And on the right is one of the ways that in the Caribbean things could be loaded on. And one of the ways, and I am so going to screw this up because it's actually my wife's song and I'm going to mess it up. Because she's here right now going, no, that's not it. Anyway. How's it start? Oh, brandy good for sailormen, brandy, oh, early in the morning, brandy, oh, early in the morning, give us a drop of brandy, brandy good for sailormen, brandy, oh. Then you start improvising, as was the art of the shanty, because we've got hours that we're going to be doing this. So if you will imagine, brandy, oh, and it keeps everybody in line. The capstan shanty did that. That's why it was a march. When you had one that was in 6/8, it's going to work well at the windlass. 6/8 is a musical term for going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. So I gave you an example of that. That was about the immigration one. And by the way, anybody know where Castle Garden was? This is just trivia time. In Manhattan, and it preceded Ellis Island. So that dates that song to, or at least that verse, the time there. Then there is also another type of shanty that is coming out of an African American tradition. And that is the Menhaden fishing. Menhaden were almost always used as fertilizer, very high in oil. We're talking about in the 1600s, everywhere from the New England waters down. In this case, this is Northern Neck, Virginia, and the Chesapeake Bay area. And you'll notice that there are two boats here and here. And what they've done is they've encircled the school with a giant net and taken up at the bottom a line that, if you remember what those old purses used to look like, and it closes the bottom. And then you start hauling them into your boat. Now, what's interesting about the Menhaden fishing work songs is that we were, on all these other shanties, pulling at various times. Okay, with a double pole halyard, and we were pulling while we're singing. In this case, the pulling is done after the singing. So I would go, Johnson girls is a mighty fine girls, and they'd look down and go, walk around, honey, walk around. And as we're singing this, we're bending over, reaching down to pull up that net. and he'd go, "Hallelujah, hallelujah. Johnson girls is mighty fine girls. Walk around, honey, walk around. Hello," and they would eventually get the fish up that way. But again, right out of that song to coordinate, keeping everybody together, also taking your mind off of the fact that this is pretty arduous work. Very, very heavy. Interesting thing about Virginia, there was a group of sailors, caulkers at a shipyard. Now what happens is with the wooden boats, you would take the wood that would make up the outside of the hull, and that needed some caulking, usually spent hemp, and they used to use lead sometimes, and of course tar, but you had to drive in with a spade. That it was a two-man job, so that you would put the spade there and put the hemp in, and there was a guy with a hammer hitting this. So they used to sing, and it was, "Come along down, buddy, come along down, big boy. Come along down, buddy. Come along down, big boy. Drive them tires," and it would go on like that. There was some new management at the shipyard, and the manager said, "What's all this singing, this frivolity? No, we're not doing that anymore." And the foreman looked at him and said, "Well, I'm not sure that..." "Yeah, trust me, no more singing." "Okay." And production went straight down. "What are these guys pulling? Is this just because..." I said, "No, they're not doing this on purpose." "Well, why has it gone down?" I said, "You stopped them from singing." "You mean that helped?" "Yes." So the shanty at work. When sailors would get paid off, they would have all of their money in their pockets, and there were a whole number of people ashore, less than affectionately referred to as land sharks, who wanted to separate them from that money as quickly as possible. Now, the only place for them to go get more money was to go back to sea. And they would then go to whatever ship they were signing on to and saying, "I need an advance." "Why do you need an advance?" "Well, I don't have my bedding. I don't have my foul weather gear. I don't have anything that I have." "Really? Oh, you went to the Bell and Buoy, huh?" "Yeah, okay." So yeah. So they'd get a month's advance on their pay. And they used to call this riding a dead horse, the debt that they were in. Short version is, fella needs to buy a horse, he's a farmer, needs the horse to plow the fields to get some money. Goes to the horse trader. "Oh yes, I'll take this young, beautiful plow horse here, so black." "Yeah, don't look too close at the teeth there." "No, but fine." And so he takes him, he says, "I'd like to buy this on account." "Why on account of what?" "Well, on account I don't have the money right now, but I will pay you for this when the crops come in." "Yep, we can do that." So takes the horse home, the rain starts, and that beautiful black sheen suddenly starts to wear off, but he hooks it up to the plow anyway, goes, "Hey-ya, Nelly," and the horse goes, and falls over dead. At which point, he's got to plow the fields, to grow the crops, to earn the money, to pay for the horse, which is dead, which he needs to plow you understand what the problem is with this. So the sailors called that debt riding a dead horse. And after that month was up, they would get some spent canvas from the sailor, or from the sailmaker, and parade it around We have evidence that in one case they actually set fire to it before they hoisted it up and threw it in, thus ending their debt. They were now, after that month, working for themselves. A poor old man came a-riding by, and we say so, and we hope so. Says I, old man, your horse will die. Oh, poor old horse. For 1 long month we've ridden him hard, and we say so, and we hope so. For 1 long month we've ridden him hard. Oh, poor old horse. He's dead as a nail on the lamp room door, and we say so, and we hope so, and he won't come hazing us no more. Oh, poor old horse. We'll hoist him up the foreyard arm, and we say so, and we hope so, where he won't do sailors any harm. Oh, poor old horse. We'll cast him down to the bottom of the sea, and we say so, and we hope so. We'll let him sink to the bottom of the sea. Oh, poor old horse. Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip! And then if the captain were a kindly sort, we'd be invited aft to splice the main brace with a tot of rum. But this is Port Washington Public Library, and there's no drinking here, so y'all are on your own. And then we get to the forecastle songs. Forecastle, that's where the sailors slept. This is the off watch. This is where now you're going to get your ballads. Now you're going to get your show tunes. Now you're going to get the second half of this program. Thank you all for singing along. I really appreciate it. We will start up in just a few minutes. Thanks a lot. Don't be afraid, it's just a banjo. Well, actually, I'm going to try and tune it, so you should be very afraid. So when mid-19th century is when the heyday of whaling was really around. And it was not only illumination. Remember that this is concurrent with the whole Industrial Revolution, and whale oil was, in fact, used for lubrication of all kinds of machinery. So much so, if you remember from the 1950s, 1960s, little vials of oil in your sewing machines, in automatic transmission fluid. At the time, that was whale oil. We even used it as late as the Skylab and Apollo missions. A good friend of mine, Don, used to say that we rode to the moon on the back of a sperm whale. And some of it is because it was, at the time, the finest lubricant oil that we could get. Watchmakers would use it quite extensively. It was clean. It was virtually impervious to temperature change, so it was really pretty impressive. And then we learned to synthesize it, and the whales went, whew. Oh, the Mary Jane of Sunderland is under our lee. She's trying for to weather us, that can never be. Captain walks a quarterdeck, crying steady as she goes. The man at the masthead cries out, there she goes. Oh, be cheerful, let your hearts never fail, while the bold harpooner is striking of the whale. Captain grabs his spyglass, bringing up aloft, crying, where away, how far is she off? The answer from aloft, my boys, causes us to smile. 3 points on our lee bow and scarce half a mile. Oh, be cheerful, lads, let your hearts never fail, while the bold harpooner is striking of the whale. Captain stands upon the deck with his spyglass in his hand, viewing all them gallant whales blow at every strand. Put your tubs in your boats, me boys, by your braces stand. We'll have one of them fine whales, hand boys over hand. Oh, be cheerful, lads, let your hearts never fail, while the bold harpooner is striking of the whale. Then lower away your boats, me boys, after him we'll go. Know that he's a sperm whale because he spouts so low. We pulled up alongside of him and hove 2 irons in. The whale he struck us with his fluke and killed one of our men. But be cheerful, lads, let your hearts never fail, while the bold harpooner is striking of the whale. Now the loss of that great whale, my boys, grieved our captain sore. The loss of that one brave man grieved him 10 times more. Now our ship is full, my boys, pass around the gin. We and the Mary Jane are homeward bound again. Oh, be cheerful, lads, let your hearts never fail, while the bold harpooner is striking of the whale. Yes, be cheerful, lads, let your hearts never fail, while the bold harpooner is striking of the whale. So, some of you more literaturely minded may have noticed that in fact, I could hear you all going, oh, wait a minute. That line about standing upon the deck with a spyglass in his hand, viewing all them gallant whales, yeah, I believe that's directly out of Moby Dick. Yeah, because I know you all read it last night in preparation for this. Melville himself was actually on a whaler. He jumped ship because he couldn't take it. But his knowledge of whaling was actually pretty extensive. So, a lot of these come out of the whalermen's journals. And there was a fellow named Gale Huntington up at Martha's Vineyard, and he was a history professor, and one of his kids came back from the city dump with this book that ended up being one of the old whalermen's journals. And in it, he found all sorts of song lyrics. And he said, where did you get this? Oh, there's a big pile of them over at the landfill. They rushed over, got this whole pile back, started going through them, and then people like Stuart Frank, who is up in Massachusetts, really continued on with that work, and it's given us so many amazing, amazing songs. Signals all planned. Early the next morning at about lock. The man at the masthead cries, yonder she spouts, where away does she lay? The answer from aloft, 2 points on our lee bow and about 3 miles off. And it's haul up your boats, boys, and be of good cheer. Put your tubs in your boats, keep your bow lines all clear. Now bend to your oars and make your boats fly. One thing we dread of, keep clear of his eye. First mate he struck him, the whale it did sound. The captain came up and he tried to bend on, but the whale began to vomit blood for the spout. In less than 10 minutes we had him fin out. We hauled him alongside and with many a shout we soon cut him in and began to try out. Now the whale is all tried, likewise stowed down. Is better to us boys than 500 pounds. Here's health to all whalemen, boys, drink it down, do. Likewise to the Bengal and all our ship's crew. All you who want money, I'd have you for to go to the coast of Peru, where the whalefish do blow. Coast of Peru. The number of things in that, going to notice that the lowering away your boats, so the mothership would actually stay be hove to. It's a way to essentially put on the brakes, the way you configure the sails. And then the whaleboats, each with about 6 men, would go out, hunt the whale, and the term trying out was the separation of the oil from the blubber. And there would be 2 try works, or if you remember those old big brick barbecues that were in a whole lot of houses in Port Washington when I was here. Those would contain 2 kettles, and the oil would just seep out, leaving just the fiber. So imagine, if you will, if you've ever had a barbecue and you had strips of fat around the steak. Now imagine those the size of a barn door, and that's what was being peeled back. Our voyages could last for 2 to 5 years. And so it would be 2 to 5 years before you see your home port again. And the UK was a little bit more seasonal because they were up in Greenland. And it might be something like this. On the 23rd of March, me boys, we hoisted our topsail, crying heaven above, protect us with a sweet and a pleasant gale. We never was downhearted, boys, nor let our courage fail. We bore away up to Greenland, looking out for the Greenland whale, looking out for the Greenland whale. When we got to Greenland, where the icy winds did blow, we tacked about all in the north amongst the frost and snow. Our fingertops was frozen off, likewise our toenails. We crawled on the deck, me boys, looking out for the Greenland whale, looking out for the Greenland whale. And when we got to Imas where the mountains flowed with snow. We tacked about all in the north till we heard the whalefish blow. And when we catch that whale, brave boys, homeward we will steer. But make the taverns ring, me boys, a drinking of strong beer. We'll make them lofty alehouses in London for to roar. When the money is all gone, to Greenland go for more. To Greenland go for more. Crying, what shares your own? So, when sailors would get home, like we talked about before, they'd kind of head for those pleasures of shore. And everybody was so happy to see them because they had money. And when that money was done, sorry, name again? Yeah. Naturally, folks that were writing Broadway shows around 14th Street at the time, where Broadway was, made reference to this in songs. So we're going to do a little bit of a Broadway show tune for you. Ended up falling into the oral tradition with a lady named Lena Bourne Fish from East Jaffrey, New Hampshire, completely landlocked, and she gave collectors hundreds and hundreds of old songs, this being one of them. Oh, it's got a chorus, so even if you haven't figured it out, sing anyway. Our ships may come and ships may go, as long as the sea doth roll. Each sailor lad, likewise his dad, enjoys the flowing bowl. And the lasses sure he do adore, one that's plump and round. When your money's gone, it's the same old song. Get up, Jack John, sit down. Come along, you jolly brave boys. There's lots more grog in the jar. We'll plow the briny ocean with a jolly roving tar. That's the chorus. Everybody, ready? Okay. Come along, you jolly brave boys. There's lots more grog in the jar. We'll plow the briny ocean with a jolly roving tar. Close enough. When Jack gets in, he's sure to steer for some old boarding house. I'll welcome him with rum and gin. They'll feed him on pork's house. And he'll lend and spend and not offend till he lies drunk on the ground. When your money's gone, it's the same old song. Get up, Jack John, sit down. Come along, you jolly brave boys. There's lots more grog in the jar. We'll plow the briny ocean with a jolly roving tar. And Jack will sail aboard some ship for India or Japan. In Asia there the ladies fair all love the sailor man. And he'll go ashore on a tear and he'll buy some girl a gown. When your money's gone, it's the same old song. Get up, Jack John, sit down. Come along, you jolly brave boys. There's lots more grog in the jar. We'll plow the briny ocean with a jolly roving tar. When Jack is old and weather beat, too old to roam about, they'll let him stop in some rum shop till 8 bells calls him out. And he'll raise his hands high up to the sky, saying, boys, I'm homeward bound. When your money's gone, it's the same old song. Get up, Jack John, sit down. Come along, you jolly brave boys. There's lots more grog in the jar. We'll plow the briny ocean with a jolly roving tar. Come along, you jolly brave boys. There's lots more grog in the jar. We'll plow the briny ocean with a jolly roving tar. If anybody recently saw the Get Back reassemblage of the Beatles movie, Let It Be, and I do have to say that in, I guess that's the folks in the booth saying, yeah, they saw it, okay, good. I do have to say that one of my memories in this particular room was December of 1980. And we showed Let It Be here after December 8th when John was murdered. And I remember delivering right there my 17-year-old eulogy. I go back quite a ways in this library, and it's really great to be back here. Anyway, there was a song that, when they were just kind of messing around, because these 4 lads from Liverpool was and remains an incredibly important port in Britain, but it was amazingly important because in the beginning of the 19th century, first decades in fact, was the first time with the packet ships that a ship sailed on an exact schedule. Previous to that, they had sailed on lucky or unlucky days. The merchant ships sailed when they were full. And if you've also ever seen the last Pirates of the Caribbean, you will notice that in the jail scene, there's a crusty old nasty pirate singing a shanty, and they didn't sing, actually they might have sung this song, because it's not a shanty. None of these songs is going to be a shanty. We'll talk about that. And that old crusty sailor is singing this song because it was in fact Paul McCartney. Come gather round, you sailor lads, and listen to me plea. When you hear it told, you'll pity me. I was a bloody fool in the port of Liverpool, first time that I came home from sea. We was paid off at the home from a voyage to Sierra Leone, £3.10 a week, that was me pay. With a pocket full of tin, I was very soon taken in by a girl with the name of Maggie May. Oh, Maggie, Maggie May, they have taken her away to walk upon Van Diemen's cruel shores. She robbed so many sailors and dosed so many whalers, and she'll never roam down Lime Street anymore. Oh, well, do I remember when I first met Maggie May. She was cruising up and down Old Cannery Place with a figure so divine, like a frigate of the line. Me being a sailor, I gave chase. Oh, Maggie, Maggie May, they have taken her away to walk upon Van Diemen's cruel shores. She robbed so many sailors and dosed so many whalers, and she'll never roam down Lime Street anymore. Next morning I awoke, I was flat and sorely broke. No jacket, trousers, waistcoat could I find. When I asked her where they were, why she said, "My very dear sir, down in Kelly's pawn shop number 9. Oh, Maggie, Maggie May, they have taken her away to walk upon Van Diemen's cruel shores. She robbed so many sailors and dosed so many whalers, she'll never roam down Lime Street anymore. To the pawn shop I did go, but no clothes there could I find. Police came and took that girl away. And the judge guilty found her of robbing a homeward bounder, and he paid her passage back to Botany Bay. Oh, Maggie, Maggie May, they have taken her away to walk upon Van Diemen's cruel shores. She robbed so many sailors and dosed so many whalers, she'll never roam down Lime Street anymore. Oh, Maggie, Maggie May, they have taken her away to walk upon Van Diemen's cruel shores. She robbed so many sailors and dosed so many whalers, she'll never roam down Lime Street anymore. I love doing that for folks that have seen it, know what I'm talking about, because they go through the version that Lennon sang going, oh, that was there. Oh, that part, that was. So. Move to the fishing. We've done some whaling. And cod fishing up in the North Atlantic was big business. And cod can get pretty ornery, and as a result, you may have to help them to sleep with a stick. It can also be very dangerous because in the shipping lanes, they're not stopping for those small fishing smacks that are there. Come, come, my lads, and listen here, a fisherman's song you soon shall hear. What I did and undergo when first I went cod banging out till me laugh all the day, riddle all the day. This is a smacksman's life at sea. How well I remember the 14th of May, a big bark ship she came our way. She came our way and did let fly till our topsail halyards flew sky high. To me laugh all the day, riddle all the day, this is a smacksman's life at sea. Try that chorus. Laugh all the day, riddle all the day. This is a smacksman's, that's the fishing boats. This is a smacksman's life at sea. Well, now we draw near Harwich Pier. The old and the young, they do draw near to watch us get our fish on deck and crack their skulls with a little short stick. To me laugh all the day, riddle all the day. This is a smacksman's life at sea. Well, now my song is nearly done. I hope I've not offended one. But I don't think I got it complete, 'cause I've only been in the trade about a week. To me laugh of the day, laugh of the day. This is a smacksman's life at sea. Oh, laugh all the day, riddle all the day. This is a smacksman's life at sea. Oh, that was brilliant. The more serious side of the fishing, especially in the UK, could come from an entire town being in the fishing industry. Very similar to the way ours were in Gloucester. If you've ever been up to, oh, sorry, I mispronounced that, Gloucester, Massachusetts. And I feel it important that wherever I happen to be, try to learn the language as faithfully as possible. And if storms came about, like one in December of 1866, or January rather, 1866, and took out almost the entire east coast of Britain. Now, the connection, of course, to Gloucester is that one of the finest examples of an explanation of the Gloucester fishing, this is when they would go up to the Grand Banks and they would send out little boats there, is in a book called Captains Courageous. You may have seen the movie with Little Lord Fauntleroy and Spencer Tracy, who goes on record as, I believe, the worst Portuguese accent on film, rivaled only by, and I love him dearly with all my heart, poor Dick Van Dyke, who should never, ever try to do an English accent, ever, for Mary Poppins. But I digress. And in the book, Captains Courageous is a reference to this during a memorial service at the end that Kipling wrote. Rudyard Kipling. And a very, very dear friend of ours, Heather Wood, filled in some of the rest of it and gave it a beautiful melody. A stormy night in Brixham, the fishing fleet at sea. To reach the port in safety, they labored manfully. The beacon on the headland was drenched and blown away. They could not find the harbor through fog and blinding spray. The women on the quayside were peering through the gloom. They built a fire with all they had to guide their loved ones home. They took the grandma's blanket, who shivered and bade them go. They took the baby's cradle, who could not say them no. They burnt the chairs and tables, not knowing all the while if they were building a bonfire or only a funeral pile. To keep the beacon blazing, they toiled with all their might. They did not let that fire go out through all the weary night. For 3 miles up and down the coast, the wreckage it was strewn. The living and the dead men upon the beach were thrown. They brought them to the fire and laid them on the sand, asking, "Child, is this your father? Wife, is this your man?" 100 men and 50 boats were lost that fateful night. All those who reached the harbor were guided by that light. And when the boats of Brixham go out to face the gales, think of the love that's riding like light upon their sails. Brixham Harbor, Heatherwood. In keeping slightly maudlin, one of the things that Grammy Fish found was she ended up with a version of a military song that probably predates the 19th century. And the reason is of its use of the term, a press gang, by the way, was the Queen's ability, or the Crown's ability to press into service anybody they wanted to at any time when at war. And during the 18th and 19th century, they were at war quite a bit, mostly with France. And Grammy Fish found this, and previous to 1799 is when they would use an engagement signal flag called the blood red flag, and that meant no quarter would be expected, nor would any be given. It was going to be a fight to the death. Come all you wild young men, a warning take by me, never to lead yourself astray into no bad company, as I myself have done in the pleasant month of May, when I was seized by a press master from a warship that anchored in the bay. We were sailing along so high. Who did we meet but a French man of war, and to them we did draw nigh. We hoisted the English flag, and the bloody flag let fly. Let every man stand firm to his guns, for the Lord knows who must die. Decks were sprinkled with blood, the cannon so loudly did roar. I did wish myself safe at home, or along with my Polly on the shore. She's a tall and a slender lass, with a dark and a rolling eye. As I lay bleeding on the deck, 'tis for your sweet sake I'll die. Jack be unfurled over every land and clime. The brave deeds of our sailor boys be extolled till the end of time. Come all you wild young men, a warning take by me, never to lead yourself astray into no bad company. Do a couple more and leave you. We'll have some time for questions if you like, and talk. So one of the things you need to know is that there's a thing called a studdingsail or a stunsail. This is extensions. If you remember when those sails were full in the photos that we saw, these are extensions that go beyond the yard, an extra sail that's put on there, and apparently they're incredibly difficult to handle. And the sailors, for some reason, did not like that. The other thing that you need to know is the term kid, in this case, refers to a leather bowl that the sailors would be fed with. Maybe made out of goat, I don't know, but that is the case. Otherwise, you will find one of these verses very, very disturbing. And I just did the wrong song. This has got a great chorus with a big bow wow, chow row row, fall-de-roll-de ride all day. With a big bow wow, chow row row, fall-de-roll-de ride all day. That's lovely. And if you're at all worried about the words, just go, well, how all day, or any close approximation of that, and I'm going to be delighted. Oh, the very first voyage I went to sea, to Gallant yards I crossed all three, the colors flying at our mizzen peak. A rattling breeze made the old ship creak with a big bow wow, tow row row, fall-de-roll-de ride all day. Oh, now our breakfast is come down. There are empty kids lying all around. One kicks 'em here and another kicks 'em there, saying blame the old cook for leaving them there. With a big bow wow, tow row row, fall-de-roll-de ride all day. Oh, now our breakfast is all done. Along to your duty, boys, everyone. One to the gaskets, others to the points. Curse the old ship for limbs and joints. With a big bow wow, tow row row, fall-de-roll-de ride all day. A squall is a-comin' on. Along to the weather quarter, boys, all along. Take in your stunsails alow and aloft. Clew up to gallants and royals fore and aft. With a big bow wow, tow row row, fall-de-roll-de ride all day. Now cursed and hanged be the great old fool that first invented the stunsail boom. May he be hanged and his generations cursed, the humbugging rascal that invented them first. With a big bow wow, tow row row, fall-de-roll-de ride all day. There is one more thing that I do crave, that he may meet with a watery grave. No bell for to ring, no bell for to toll. Sharks take his body and the devil take his soul. With a big bow wow, tow row row, fall-de-roll-de ride all day. A big bow wow, tow row row, fall-de-roll-de ride all day. I would love it if thank you all so much. Thanks so much to Bruce for not hitting the suck button. Love it. Thank you. Thanks to Jeff for having me. Thank you all for being here. You are most amazing and great singers. Don't let anybody gives you any grief, you send them to me. I'd like to please bring up my incredibly amazing wife, Joy Bennett. In northern part of Scotland, it's a little island or body of water called the Minches. And there are times that the winds blow so fiercely that it turns that otherwise dark dark green water white. And when the fishermen were coming back, they would see the island of Mingulay, which was no longer occupied, but they would know that home was not far away. And I am so, so grateful to be allowed to be back home. And thank you all for being here. This is the mandatory participation portion of the program. Anybody caught not singing will have a concertina hurled at their heads. It's really easy. Heel ya ho, boys. Let her go, boys. Bring her head round into the weather, into the weather. Heel ya ho, heel ya ho, boys. Let her go, boys. Sailing homeward to Mingulay. What care we how white the midge is? What care we for no wind or weather? Bring her round for every inch is sailing homeward to Mingulay. Heel ya ho, boys. Let her go, boys. Bring her head round into the weather. Heel ya ho, boys. Let her go, boys. Sailing homeward to Mingulay. Wives are waiting on the bank, looking seaward from the heather. Bring her round, boys, and we'll anchor ere the sun sets on Mingulay. Heel ya ho, heel ya ho, boys. Let her go, boys. Bring her head around into the weather. Heel ya ho, boys. Let her go, boys. Sailing homeward to Mingulay. Heel ya ho, boys. Let her go, boys. Bring her head round into the weather. Heel ya ho, boys. Let her go, boys. Sailing homeward to Mingulay. Thank you for singing. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Brian. Thank you all. Thanks, Support Washington.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you, Joy. That was fantastic. What fun. We're going to take some questions here in just a moment. I just want to, again, thank our Nautical Advisory Council for supporting this program. And, Chris, I certainly just want to welcome you back here to Port Washington. It's such a pleasure to have you back here. You're welcome back anytime. Anytime. Okay, I think I saw a hand right here.
Why do they call a sailor a tar?
Great question. And is it going to mess up the... Do we want to keep this on, on
we can
YouTube?
keep this part of the recording.
Okay,
Yeah,
is it going to mess it up if I sit down here?
I don't think so. Brian will be on it.
Yeah, I want to get a little closer to you so that I can make an easier target if you want to get me back for the banjo playing. Why a tar? Because remember we talked about the standing rigging and the ways to get up. In order to weatherproof that, that is encased in canvas. They're steel lines and encased in canvas and then loaded down with Stockholm tar, so that when you're working up there and any standing rigging, those foot ropes that we were on, would be weatherproofed in the same way. So they smelled, and we did when I was working at the museum and on the Morgan. We smelled constantly. In fact, I've got a great shirt. Someday I really ought to bring it around with a great big tar stain when I smacked into one of the ropes smacked into me and just left this nice tar tattoo on the middle of the shirt. And the other side of that was we had consultants come in to help us out at the museum at one point, and the demonstration squad, one of the things that this consultant said was, is there any way for that demonstration squad to wear cleaner clothes, please? It's just not... No, there isn't. Anyway, the other thing by that, you could weatherproof your hats and your jackets by putting the tar on it. And it was then known as tarpaulin hats. And that's where we get the term tarp. Ooh, yep. There you go. I am so full of cocktail party information.
I have another question back here.
So are shanties only songs or work songs that are sung on the sea? I feel like I've heard like ones on the railroads and other types of work songs.
These are work songs, and they are related because of the West African connection. Gandy dancing being one of them. Gandy dancing is lining the tracks. But in the strict sense of sea shanty, it is a work song for a specific job at sea. So everything in this latter part is known as a folksel song or an off-watch song or the ballads. Right? The shanties are what we did here, so that, especially historically, that we have some evidence that it was used at that particular job.
A follow-up on that, Chris.
Sure.
So can you talk a little bit about just how these songs were originated, how they evolved? Because I imagine that there is no perhaps single composer or author of these songs.
Oh, not
they
at
were
all.
just an oral tradition that was passed along. Did they evolve as years passed?
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So, first of all, the work songs are definitely showing up beginning of the 19th century. As we had talked about, the West African enslaved and free people of color in the Caribbean, southern ports, are singing songs that had already been anglicized, because in some cases the enslaved people that are doing that longshoreman job have already been here for a second or third generation. So they're taking the habit of call and response work song, and they've already applied Americanisms to it. The Anglo-Irish shipboard crews would hear this, and should be pointed out that, especially on the whalers and on the merchant ships, as much as 30% of the crew could be people of color. it went so far as there were African-American and Afro-Native captains of whale ships. Paul Cuffey comes to mind as being one of those. So the mixture, not unlike jazz, of people of color and people of European descent mixing and exchanging those songs, thus putting in their own reference points. For instance, oh, the smartest packet that you can find, hey, ho, are you most on is the old wildcat of the swallowtail line. Clear away the track and let the bullgine run. Tell me, hey, rig a jig and a jaunting car. Hey, ho, are you most done with Liza Lee all on my knee? Clear away the track and let the bullgine run. So this is actually chock full. This is Irish African, because you have the African-American references of Liza Lee. You have the use of a jaunting car, which is a two-wheeled carriage in Ireland. And where would they have gotten together to put this but on the railroads, building the railroads on the East Coast? And that's where you get African and Irish workers together, and a bullgine is 19th century slang for a railroad engine. And right in that core is how that all got together. Then they take popular songs, they're gonna do those back and forth, music hall songs, and as long as it's got the form to work to it, it can be used as a shanty. And that's the skill of the shantyman. Does that actually?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Excellent. Maybe one other question. Can you talk a little bit more about your experience on the Charles W. Morgan? You described that as one of your all-time great experiences, so tell us a little more about it.
Absolutely. So the Morgan was built in 1841. She is the only wooden whale ship left in the world. In 2013, she is needing a refit. So they went to the then president of Mystic Seaport, and they said, we gotta pull her, we've gotta get her refit. Incredibly insightful, amazing. Said, how much to get her sailing again? They gave him a price. Said, great, let's do it. 2014, summer 2014, we took her out. And we had all kinds of, because we had worked on her on the docks to demonstrate some of how sails were set, how things were done, and that was an approximation. And we had a lot of theories. How's she going to handle? She's very tubby. Is this? She was beautiful under sail. Sleek. I mean, it was the design. She whaled for 80 years. And I will tell you that even though I can interpret the days of whaling, I am very firmly of the camp, and many of us that worked at Mystic were the same way. There is no reason today to be whaling. None. So even though we can describe it, it's our history, we accept it, but not today. In fact, Don was president of the Cetacean Society for years. In any case, so we took her out, and we got to really help her out. And I got to shanty, I did a halyard shanty up, and in fact, did a combination. The younger folks that are sailing today on the square riggers generally are not really fond of shantying because they don't know the history, they don't know how to use the tool. And their experience, please excuse me for the rest of the programming that you're going to have here. Their experience with shanty is fat men dressed as pirates singing, singing a bunch of songs, having never put their hands on a line. And they're kind of insulted by that. So I had that chance to shanty on board. My colleagues in the shanty department did. And we sailed her up to Stellwagen, which is now a whale preserve. And we lowered the whaleboats and actually there's amazing footage of the boats that used to hunt these whales' ancestors with the humpbacks playing all around the things. It was an incredible, incredible. So that was a lot of it, and it was just. I never thought we'd be able to take her out. Never thought that we would do that, and I know that she appreciated it. And yes, I'm getting all crunchy granola on you, and yes, they have spirits, and well, deal with it.
Well, I feel like we should just follow you down to Town Dock, climb on a boat, and head out to sea, Chris. This has
Absolutely. I used to have a Rhodes 19 that was
Awesome.
right out there. It was part of my Sea Explorer, and then our cat boat was out there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've done that.
Awesome.
That before we actually had a boat. Just a little family story. My father used to love the Job Lot Trading Center, which is downtown Manhattan, and Dad could not pass up a bargain. And at one point, he came back and said, I got something at the Job Lot, and my mother just went, oh, Lord. And it was this rubber raft that took up most of the living room. And she looked at it, she said, Hans, what are we going to do with the rubber raft? Well, when we get a boat, we'll be able to use that at the town dock instead of having to use it. She said, Hans, we don't have a boat. Yes, but when we get one. Well, anyway.
Well, let's have another round of applause for Chris Koldewey. Thank you so much, Chris. Again, welcome back anytime. This has been a real treat for us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And anybody like to chat, more power to you. Thanks, everybody at home.
All right. Thank you.